This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Speed merchants across Africa were forced to stow away their powerful racing machines in garages and parking lots due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As the sporting world gets back on its feet, tonight's Sportscene revs up for a tour around the continent to bring you how this motorsport fraternity is gearing up for post-COVID-19 action and how it's been impacted by the global pandemic. Hello and a very warm welcome to you wherever you're joining us. This is the home of African sports news, views and interviews. This is Sportscene here on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua. Also coming up on the program, motorsport competitors in Uganda still hopeful of completing the disrupted 2020 season. And South Africa's former champion Giniel de Villiers eyeing yet another Dakar Rally title. We kickstart things in South Africa, where motorsport is still very much a male-dominated code. But there are a few women who've become masters behind the wheel and are paving the way for others. CGTN's Julie Shire met with some of the women who are transforming the landscape.
The adrenaline-pumping world of motorsport has long been dominated by men. But daring and gutsy women are holding their own in the changing face of motorsport. Elvine Fonk's expert navigational skills places her among the country's best.
I'm extremely competitive, so when you put a challenge in front of me, I will beat you. If you're a man, if you're a woman, I will beat you. I'm extremely competitive. That's just in my nature, that's in my blood. I love kicking men's butt. I absolutely thrive on it. A man cannot stand when a woman is quicker or going faster or beating them.
Paige Lindenberg got her first taste of racing when she was merely 5. She's mentored by her father and powerboat champion Peter Lindenberg. But she was forced to switch from water sport to the thrill of 4 wheels.
At the age of 7, I was the youngest person to ever get a powerboating license. I won the South African champs at age 9, world champs at age 11. So motorsport started, I was about 11 or 12. My dad had a really bad powerboating accident in 2002 and it almost cost him his life. And he had decided that powerboating was just too dangerous for him because he wanted to watch us grow up, and therefore it was too dangerous for me. So that's when I moved into motorsport.
Claire Vale is considered a stalwart with her vicious racing and drifting skills. She made history on her debut in 2007 by becoming the first woman to tear up the track in the V8 Supercar Series and to compete in the Super Drift Series.
I think the key to succeeding in an area where it's not common to find successful women, you have to obviously be really good and really professional at what you do. And the main thing is you have to earn your respect. So I think that is the crucial thing I found in motorsport too. When I proved that I actually was serious about what I was doing, it was never really a big problem.
Racing is an expensive sport, but passion is what mostly drives these women and keeps them on the track. They hope this will encourage others to get behind the wheel.
I think we could and should be doing more to seek out and give opportunities to people, particularly in communities who've been previously disadvantaged. You know, I mean, just for example, in our spinning community, we've got tremendous talent there and female talent as well. And it's only just starting now to be recognized.
I get countless young girls coming to me at race events, you know, wanting a picture and talking to me and, you know, saying I'm their idol and they're so inspired by me. And I think that's what drives me, is to show these young girls that anything is possible.
If your family is not part of the racing team, there's no way that you can be in the car, because there's no way that an outsider, a woman outside of the sport, can get at an entry level where she can learn how to be a navigator or do the right things. You need to go to a school to learn, and then from there, there's drivers that will pick you up, and then you can start learning in the car as well.
The racing season has been severely affected during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been slow to resume with South Africa still in lockdown, but these fierce women can't wait to get back in the cars. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Keeping things in southern Africa, race teams and administrators are feeling the financial pinch after COVID-19 slammed the brakes on Zimbabwe's motorsport. CGTN's Mahia Mutua tells us more.
With 6 different classes of motorsport calling Harare's Donnybrook Park home, there's usually a cacophony of roaring engines, screeching tires, and cheering crowds piercing the air here. But not so for the last 5 months. Though lockdown rules have been relaxed to allow races to resume, spectators can't attend.
We can't ask a sponsor to come on board for the day if they're not going to get the mileage through spectators. We've still got the daily runnings of the event with your marshals, your medics, your toilets, your water deliveries. You've still got a day-to-day running cost. And without having that sponsorship money, we don't have the money to run the event.
Speed-craving drivers have been left tinkering with their toys, hoping to make them meaner and faster, but there's a limit to what they can do.
Normally, all the fixing and improvements come from testing and practicing. It's only when you go and practice that you realize, right, this thing needs to be this and better this way. So when you've got a lot of downtime, you can do the odd bits and ends, but there's nothing like being on the track and being able to test and know where you're going wrong and change from there and adapt.
Sports cars are accustomed to grime and dirt, but not the kind that gathers from being idle, which is unfortunately the situation for now. But even though spirits are dampened, they certainly haven't been extinguished.
5 newcomers have bought cars in preparation of post-lockdown racing.
Unfortunately, they haven't been able to practice with their cars, but they have just been a breath of fresh air to know that there is new competitors coming into the main circuit scene. Karting, that's developing. They've managed to do a cadet sponsorship class where they're getting very little children to come on board. I think they've only got 2 or 3 kids, but it's better than no racing at all.
Motocross practice is allowed again, and competitive meets could soon follow.
When there's a down on the sport, there's always an up. There's an upward movement. So it only can get better. And we've got 2 potential world champions from Zimbabwe motocross. And if we can get those kids overseas, I think they're going to shine.
And raise the profile of Zimbabwe's motorsport, which intends to drive through the current setback. Mahia Mutua, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to motorsport across the continent. Tanzania's National Rally Championship had only just gotten underway with 2 races when the pandemic forced the suspension of activities. Now that rallies are resuming, local drivers are hoping to complete the season in a strong position. Ajiminda Singh from the Hari Singh racing team leads the standings on 30 points. CGTN's Daniel Kijo has more.
High-speed tight corners, powerful engines, and staying cool under immense pressure are things Ajiminda Singh knows too well. He comes from a generation of rally drivers who have been competing since the 80s. The Singh family now has 4 active drivers who are tearing up Tanzania's racing scene. But the COVID pandemic forced Tanzania's motorsport world to step on the brakes. As the season opens up again, he is eager to finalize the season and be crowned Rally King of the Year.
So it's good to get a champion for the year and not something that's been carried forward. So yeah, we look forward to the next 4 events and we'll be participating in full.
Michael Malue is Tanzania's top motorsport analyst who has covered the sport in the Eastern and Central African regions. He says the season usually requires a maximum of 8 and a minimum of 4 events to qualify a champion. He says despite Ajiminda starting well in a game where each second counts, it's how you finish that matters.
The competition is still very stiff. The gap isn't big. A driver can't become champion with just one rally win. There are drivers who didn't compete in this year's first race, so more work needs to be done.
Another event that was to happen this year was Tanzania's hosting of a leg of the African Rally Championship, which is the continent's biggest rally event. It has only managed to run one event this season. Earlier this year, South Africa withdrew from the series, citing financial challenges. Tanzania was due to host round 6 of the Africa Rally Championship Series, but after COVID-19 happens, such hopes declined after the final decisions to cancel the series was made by the World Motorsport governing body, the FIA. Drivers here were looking forward to use this international platform, but now they want to regroup and try again next year. Motorsports are expensive in Tanzania. To compete in one race, a team spends an average of $4,000 to $5,000 on logistics and crew. That's minus the cost of a car, which can go up to $150,000.
It's not that we don't have drivers to compete in the races, we have drivers and cars. Nice, complete cars. The problem is the economic situation now is hard. Drivers need sponsors in order to participate. So that's the main problem. That's why we see a small number of participating drivers, even though we have a large number of race cars. Some drivers decided to just park their race cars in their garages.
So far, 3 more events have been confirmed in Iringa, Arusha, and Dar es Salaam regions. Ajimenda says he will be ready.
The key is being patient and not just overdoing ourselves. If the car gets damaged, importation is difficult. We need to think about getting spares in from foreign countries because the availability of spares is also a problem here. So it's a matter of being patient and taking care of our car, and then when the opportunity rises, we go for it.
The Automobile Association of Tanzania has revealed that if a club fails to organize an event as planned, then all the other results from the remaining events held this year will count towards the 2021 Tanzania National Championship. So the race to prepare is underway. Daniel Kijo, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
Well, it's time for us to take a pit stop here on Sportscene. Here's what's coming up. Motorsport competitors in Uganda still hopeful of completing disrupted 2020 season.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Panata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us here on CGTN. Now, in Uganda, the motorsports fraternity is waiting to hear when it will be able to complete its 2020 season when the government rolls out plans for the resumption of sporting activities in the country. CGTN's Leon Senyange now reports.
The past 5 months have been difficult for George Semakula. The suspension of all sports activities in March put the motocross trainer out of work. His riders have also missed out on competitions this year.
We had targets of the FIM Africa was supposed to be held here in 2020. And then we also had Central Africa Motocross Championship and the National Championship. So our targets were, we wanted to win the national title, win the East Africa, that's a Central Africa, CSC, and win the Africa event.
Yeah.
Omar Mayanja was second in this year's National Rally Championship. The pandemic put the brakes on his season ambitions.
We've been on a run of about 5 rallies, finishing consistently, and we're hoping we'll be able to keep it up. But then the lockdown came and everything completely stops.
Competitors already fear for the worst, with only 3 months left to conclude the 2020 competitions. The absence of championship events has also affected competitors financially. Many may no longer be supported by their sponsors, and that could stop some competitors coming back to the sport when it resumes. Despite its huge crowds, local motorsport has been graded by the National Council of Sports as a low-risk sport. But authorities say stopping the spread of coronavirus will be a priority.
The federation should take the mantle of organization first to be a role model for the rest of the clubs. What kind of event should be organized post-COVID, but also as a means of relieving the strain from the organizers and the competitors, and give them something that is manageable and can easily be copied going forward.
The local federation has until November to complete or cancel its season. For Omar and George, it is still an unpredictable wait to get back to the racetracks again. Leon Sanyange, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Crossing the border now, organizers of the 2020 Superbike Championship in Kenya were forced to abandon the 2020 season due to the pandemic. The suspension further slowed down their mission to establish superbike racing among the popular sports in the country. CGTN's Wanja Mungai caught up with the Gogo racing team and tells us how the global pandemic has changed their sport.
These were high-octane scenes at the Whistling Moran racing track just a few kilometers outside Kenya's capital city, Nairobi, a time like now last year. It was the penultimate race for both the 2019 East Africa and Kenya Superbike Championship season. With huge stakes on the line for the competitors, the Gogo racing team was enjoying one of their best years on the circuit.
2019 was very, very interesting for me. It was the first time I entered any superbike racing. In fact, I didn't know how to ride a superbike or any type of bike before then. So I started the 2019 race season as a complete newbie. New to the track, new to racing, new to the competition. And I finished off the season with a podium finish. I came third in the national competition, which is fantastic. I beat a lot of my competitors, and a lot of people didn't think I'd do so well.
It was quite tight. It was. I actually needed to win to come in the top 3 in the last race, in the final race, to actually win the championship, and so did one of my competitors. So it was quite a tight race. But yeah, at the end of the day, hard work pays off.
With the monster bikes oiled and ready for action, when the calendar turned to 2020, nothing had prepared the racers for what was to unfold. The coronavirus pandemic saw the suspension of global sporting activity in March. Organizers of the Kenya and East Africa Superbike Championship were left with no choice but to cancel the new season even before it started.
I mean, it's been very challenging for all of us as a team. I mean, considering the fact that Gogo Racing did pretty well last season, we were actually really looking forward to this year. We had big plans. We were planning to recruit more racers. We were planning to expand. It has actually affected us quite a bit because, we were all looking forward to racing again.
Deterred but not crushed, the Gogo team has been keeping busy preparing for the eventual return to action. They are maintaining physical fitness through exercises and, of course, working on their bikes in readiness to rev off when racing resumes. And in line with popularizing the sport, Gogo Racing has created a platform that will help in giving aspiring riders a rare race experience.
we have created a platform whereby those who have their own bikes can come to the track, have a track day, and have it guided and instructed, whereby one of our superbike racers on the team will help instruct and guide the person on the track in terms of race lines, cornering, braking, leaning, and so many other things.
With the Kenyan government still working on modalities for a resumption of sporting action, superbike racers in the country are gearing up to tear up the track once more. Manjamungai, CGTN.
Well, it's time for us to take another short break, but here's what's coming up. South Africa's former champion Juniel de Villiers eyeing yet another Dakar Rally title.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
Who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Welcome back. Well, we've given you an image of motorsport across the continent from Tanzania to Uganda, Kenya, Zimbabwe and South Africa. Let's delve deeper into this subject now. For more on the subject, we are now pleased to be joined live from Nairobi by Dr. David Karuri, who is the chairman of the East Africa Motorsport Championship, a superbike racer, and to top it all, a surgeon who's known as the Blade Doc to his fans. David, what is the plan going forward now for post-COVID-19 superbike racing in the region?
Thank you very much for having me today to talk about something that's affected globally. Well, COVID presents a certain challenge. You can imagine before the pandemic, a lot of motorsport depended on funds, and both for the entertainment and also to drive the sport. Now, with the movement restrictions and gathering restrictions, it presents a challenge to the sport. However, moving forward, we do have to take into account the challenges and get solutions for the same. We do know as a spectator sport, spectators might be a challenge. In fact, the Ministry of Sport, through the Ambassador Amina Mohammed, set up a task force to come up with guidelines that we can use to make the sport grow post-COVID. We're expecting the guidelines came up with, and we're expecting a review on stakeholders' involvement to be completed round about this time, and then we should be able to have the guidelines moving forward. What that essentially means is that everyone is yearning to go. Motorsport, superbike racing in general is very important for the country as well. And you can imagine life post-COVID in a spectator sport must be challenging.
And David, do you believe that superbike racing can recapture the surge in popularity it was enjoying before the lockdown?
Yeah, by all means. Being a very entertaining sport and one that really pushes the boundaries of enjoyment, I have no doubt in my mind that the sport will re-emerge even bigger and stronger, especially with digital support and support from social media platforms. All this can be done. It's being done in MotoGP in the international scene. So we just need to think outside the box and ensure that we are able to reach our fans one way or the other. It may not be a physical meet, but a digital meet is definitely in the offing. So I do believe it can happen.
And David, you are also a medical doctor by profession. What protocols do you think need to be put in place now to ensure a safe return to action?
Well, the protocols have been all the same. Social distancing for the participants and within the pit crews, all those are part and parcel of the guidelines that have been proposed. Sanitizing as much as you can, in anytime, everywhere, and putting on masks to prevent the transmission from one person to another. Definitely within the venues of these motorsport activities, there are definitely other things that need to be put in place. Like periodic sanitization of the instruments, of the machinery, probably screening of the participants and officials. But you can imagine for a sport that derives a lot of its support from volunteers, you must understand that it becomes increasingly difficult for everyone to get tested before an event. But however, I'm sure the existing protocols of social distancing, hand washing, and putting on of masks and face shields within the pit areas is one of the big steps that we can achieve easily and prevent the spread of this pandemic further in motorsport.
All right, David, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Sportscene. Dr. David Blade Doc Karuri, who is the chairman of the East Africa Motorsport Championship, joining us live from Nairobi. Finally, powerful bikes have always fascinated many, and let us now take a brief look at the difference between superbike and MotoGP racing. That's all we have for you on this supercharged edition of Sportscene. Thank you for watching. Do remember you can send your feedback to the contacts on your screen and give us a follow on our digital media platforms. Once again, I'm Mahia Mutua. Thanks for watching. We leave you now with images from some of the sporting highlights this week, where Ott Tanak is still in contention for a victory on home soil, topping the standings at the Rally of Estonia earlier today after 6 stages on Saturday as the World Rally Championship roared back in